says here that this is a payment of $3,000 per million views, which is a multiplier, $300 for 100,000 views.
So there's something almost wild about watching a guy who built his whole image around being the smartest person in the room suddenly get trapped by his own choices. Lately, while Pirate Software has been streaming to only a small slice of the audience he used to pull, everything around him has been falling apart in public view. We're talking about losing around 80 to 90% of his peak viewers. At this point, the graph doesn't even look like a normal decline anymore. It looks like somebody grabbed the chart and launched it straight off the table. And somehow, even with all the drama and backlash already stacked against him, he still tried to force a comeback. That move seriously backfired. People were heated, and the reaction online got completely out of control. The comment sections turned into chaos fast, and every new response just seemed to make the situation messier. Things have only gotten worse from there, especially when the issues inside his own moderation team started spilling into the open. This part shocked a lot of people because Pirate Software's head moderator, a guy named Kronos, had reportedly been one of the main people keeping the whole community running for years. Then out of nowhere, his mod access got stripped away completely. After that, Pirate publicly called him a parasite, and this wasn't some private argument that leaked later either. It was said openly, in writing, where everybody could see it. Once Kronos was removed, the rest of the moderation team started falling off right behind him, and that's when people really started realizing how deep the cracks were getting. Some moderators were removed, while others chose to leave on their own, and honestly, that alone already said a lot. But the real drama started after screenshots began spreading around online. Former mods ended up gathering in a Discord together, and instead of it feeling like old friends catching up, it turned into a full breakdown of everything that had been happening behind the scenes. People started describing sudden mood swings, weird tension, and what one person even called casual cruelty toward members of his own community. According to several of them, the environment started off decent, but slowly became harder and harder to deal with over time. One former mod straight up claimed he had no empathy, while another described his usual reaction anytime problems came up. Apparently, whenever something went wrong, the response was always some version of, "This is what I did and why I did it, so it's fine." And honestly, people saw that as acting overly confident while completely brushing off criticism. Instead of listening or trying to fix problems, it came across like he expected everyone else to just accept whatever decision was made without question. But the detail that really changed how people looked at this whole situation came from one specific comment about Kronos. According to one former moderator, Kronos was the main reason a lot of the others stayed around as long as they did in the first place.
Everybody gather around. We're heading to where I used to work, but not anymore. Blizzard Entertainment. That's right. Over 6 years. Some of the best development. Great times. All right, so here we are. Yeah, moving inside.
So the second pirate publicly called his own head mod a parasite. Many people felt like he had pushed out the one person holding the entire community together. And this is where things got even more interesting. For years, a huge part of Pirate Software's image was built around one major claim. He repeatedly said he paid his moderation team full-time salaries with full benefits. Not small payouts, not random rewards, but actual full-time support. He openly talked about this himself and used it as proof that he operated differently from most creators online. The whole image was supposed to be about putting the community first and doing things differently from everyone else online. But once people started looking closer at the numbers, a lot of them felt like the story just wasn't adding up. His current streaming analytics are sitting way lower than they used to be, with only a small fraction of the audience still watching compared to before. On top of that, most of the activity on his YouTube now comes from short-form clips, which usually don't pull massive revenue on their own. When people started estimating the possible income from all of it combined, many figured the overall content earnings were probably much lower than the image being presented online. And remember, those estimates would still be before taxes, business expenses, equipment costs, and paying himself anything personally. So when people hear claims about paying around 12 moderators full-time salaries with benefits, a lot of them raise an eyebrow. To critics, it sounds hard to believe based on the current size of the operation. Some people even joked that maybe one moderator got paid temporarily, just so the statement could technically be said out loud. Nobody can fully verify the exact details from the outside, but online discussions around it definitely got loud fast. Then things shifted over to Block Game, the Minecraft-style project Pirate had reportedly been developing alongside one of his moderators. Recently, the game suddenly went offline for 4 straight days. And the craziest part? Almost nobody in the community even noticed at first. No major reactions, no flood of questions, no panic posts asking what happened. The silence was so noticeable that the issue only came up after someone sent in a donation during a live stream to mention it directly. Pirate responded by saying he already knew the servers were down and implied nobody really seemed to care. And honestly, that reaction hit people harder than the outage itself. Because when a project disappears for days and almost nobody notices, critics started wondering what that says about the current state of the community engagement around it. That situation was already rough, but then things got even messier when a Rust streamer named Fetus suddenly got hit with a 7-day Twitch suspension. A lot of people believe the ban came after he started doing a parody version of Pirate software on a roleplay server, and to be clear, the whole thing was openly played as satire from the start. The character was built around jokes tied to publicly known stories and traits people already associated with Pirate, like the Blizzard background, the ferrets, and even the way he talks. It wasn't being presented as real or trying to trick viewers. The entire point was comedy, and plenty of people inside the Rust community thought the clips were hilarious. There were even moments where the parody character crossed paths with Burn Peanut during roleplay sessions, which only made the clips spread faster online. A lot of viewers treated it like harmless internet humor, the same kind of exaggerated impressions creators and streamers constantly do for laughs. But apparently, not everybody found it funny. Behind the scenes, screenshots started floating around showing discussions in Discord about different ways people could report Fetus over the parody content. That's where the situation started feeling way more serious than just roleplay jokes on a server. And here's the part that confused a lot of people.
Got a photograph of my mage. Look at that. There I am. Yeah. That was me right before my entire team got wiped. Yeah, idiots. Should have listened to the callouts. Should have listened to the callouts. And my favorite part, coming in here and seeing the ferrets just makes me really happy.
Before the suspension happened, Kronos, who was still acting as head moderator at the time, reportedly reached out to Fetus directly. According to those messages, Kronos told him everything was fine and that the real issue was just a handful of toxic community members trying to stir up unnecessary drama. So naturally, Fetus thought the situation had already been settled. But then, less than 24 hours later, the suspension hit anyway, and that timing instantly made people start asking questions online. And what made the whole situation even stranger was how vague Twitch's suspension notice ended up being. According to Fetus, the reason listed was just one single word: harassment. That was it. No detailed explanation, no long breakdown, nothing extra. So now he was suddenly dealing with a 7-day suspension right in the middle of what he described as one of the biggest and most successful weeks of his streaming career. And from his perspective, all of this happened over a parody voice impression of someone whose own head moderator had supposedly already told him everything was fine. Now, obviously, nobody can flat out prove Pirate Software personally filed any report himself. Even Fetus said he wanted to believe Pirate wasn't directly behind it. But online, people immediately started debating different possibilities. One theory floating around was that parts of Pirate's remaining fanbase may have mass-reported the clips on their own after seeing the parody spreading around. At the same time, critics also pointed back to previous situations that already caused controversy before, including accusations involving a DMCA claim tied to parody-style content from a smaller developer. Because of that history, some people online felt it was hard to completely remove Pirate from the conversation surrounding the suspension. So while nobody outside the platforms knows exactly what happened behind closed doors, the timing and circumstances kept the speculation going hard across social media. Everybody had their own theory about who pushed things over the edge. And while all this drama was already exploding, another situation suddenly added even more attention to the discussion. A creator named Devin Nash released a video talking about what he called a manufactured viral content economy. The breakdown focused on networks where creators allegedly run organized clipping campaigns through Discord servers, offering payouts to people who spread short-form clips across platforms for more exposure and traffic. Inside Devin's research, viewers noticed an active campaign connected to Pirate Software listed with payouts reportedly offering around $3,000 per million views. The campaign was centered around clips discussing Pirate's opinions on recent changes involving Kick. That discovery instantly got people talking even louder because critics started questioning how much of online growth and visibility in the streaming world is actually organic anymore versus carefully pushed through coordinated clip networks behind the scenes. At this point, the situation doesn't even feel like regular internet drama anymore. It's starting to look like one bad decision stacked on top of another, with every new controversy dragging even more attention onto the last one. What makes it worse is that a lot of the backlash isn't coming from random outsiders anymore. It's coming from former supporters, old community members, and even people who used to defend him hard online. That's usually when creators run into real trouble.
To take a guess collectively, where do you think I used to work before now?
Activision.
Common knowledge, I'm not gonna lie, but I am quite proud.
Blizzard.
Activision, all right.
No, it could be Blizzard unless it was for 7 years.
We got a winner.
When the criticism shifts from haters to long-time viewers asking questions, the whole atmosphere changes fast. And lately, every response has only seemed to create another wave of arguments instead of calming anything down. People have also started pointing out how different Pirate's public image feels now compared to a year ago. Back then, he was constantly praised as someone who understood the industry better than most creators, somebody who always sounded calculated and confident. But now, critics are saying that same confidence is turning into stubbornness, especially whenever pushback starts building online. Even small moments have been getting picked apart lately. Clips, old statements, livestream comments, community posts. Everything gets reposted and analysed within hours. And because the internet never forgets anything, every new controversy just sends people digging deeper into older ones again. The craziest part is that none of this seems to be slowing down anytime soon. Every week there's another discussion, another screenshot, or another clip spreading around social media keeping the drama alive. And when a creator's reputation starts becoming more connected to controversy than their actual content, climbing back out of that hole gets way harder than most people realize. What's really wild is how fast the tone around him changed online. Not that long ago, people treated Pirate Software like somebody who always had the right answer for everything. His clips were everywhere, his advice got repeated non-stop, and fans defended him like crazy anytime criticism popped up. But now, the energy feels completely different. These days, almost every new post about him turns into an argument section instantly. Some people still support him, but a growing number of viewers seem exhausted by the constant drama surrounding his name. And once audiences start associating a creator more with controversy than entertainment, it becomes incredibly hard to shift the conversation back. Another thing people keep bringing up is how public every fallout has become. Instead of issues staying private behind the scenes, screenshots, clips, and Discord messages keep leaking out into the open for everyone to analyze. That kind of visibility makes every disagreement feel 10 times bigger because the internet loves turning personal conflicts into full-on spectator events. A lot of creators survive backlash by staying quiet for a while or carefully rebuilding trust over time. But in this situation, every response seems to spark another round of criticism almost immediately. Even when the original issue starts fading, something new appears and pulls everything right back into the spotlight again. And honestly, that's the part making people pay attention now. It's not just one controversy anymore, it's the pattern. The constant cycle of arguments, reactions, fallout, and public tension keeps adding pressure, and viewers are starting to wonder how much longer the whole situation can keep spiraling before something finally breaks completely.
How long did you work
7
there?
years, and to be clear, I'm actually I'm actually second gen Bliss. Mom and Dad used to work there, they procreated, and then they popped me out, and I've been working there for about 6 years, and then I left to do
Holy
OnlyFans.
shit.
And that's now I'm doing a bit of a stint in Chili's, but things are going well. Things are going well.
At this point, people online are looking at the situation in two completely different ways. The first interpretation is that the sudden clipping campaigns and promotion pushes are an attempt to artificially rebuild momentum around a creator whose numbers have clearly dropped over time. Basically, critics think it's about recreating the image of popularity, even while engagement keeps sliding downward. But there's also another possible explanation people keep bringing up. Since Pirate Software has publicly supported Kick multiple times before, some believe the promotion campaign may have been tied more to the platform itself than to him personally. Kick already has a history of boosting creators and running paid clip promotions tied to platform visibility, so some viewers think this could simply be another example of that strategy playing out publicly. Either way, people feel the optics around it don't look great. because whether it's self-promotion or platform-backed marketing, viewers are now questioning how much online growth is actually organic versus carefully amplified behind the scenes. And once audiences start doubting authenticity, that conversation spreads fast across the internet. Then right when people thought the drama had finally peaked, the Stop Killing Games initiative suddenly gained even more attention after its formal hearing at the European Parliament. Ross Scott, the creator behind the movement that Pirate Software strongly criticised before, reportedly presented the case directly in front of members of Parliament in Brussels. And according to multiple accounts from people following the hearing, the presentation was received surprisingly well. Ross was described as calm, professional, and persuasive while explaining why preserving offline access to games after support ends should be treated as a design decision rather than something technically impossible. That detail became a huge talking point because it lines up almost exactly with the argument Ross had been making publicly the entire time, the same position Pirate had previously pushed back against online. So now people are watching this unfold and realizing that an argument once dismissed by critics is suddenly being taken seriously at a major political level. That contrast made the whole situation feel even more dramatic online. While one side was dealing with falling viewership, moderator fallout, parody controversies, and questions surrounding community management, the initiative they publicly opposed was moving forward in a very real way, and naturally, the internet noticed immediately. Now, to be fair, nobody outside these situations knows every detail behind the scenes. Online discussions can spiral quickly, and public perception doesn't always tell the full story. But from the outside looking in, it's easy to understand why so many people feel this has been an incredibly rough stretch for Pirate Software overall. Because recovering from a few bad weeks online is possible, a lot of creators survive controversy. But what becomes much harder is rebuilding trust once audiences start questioning the image that originally made someone popular in the first place. That's where things get complicated. But that's just my opinion on the whole situation. I want to know what you think. Do you believe the backlash has gone too far? Or do you think the criticism is justified after everything that's happened? Drop your thoughts down in the comments because this entire situation has people seriously divided right now. And if you enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like, share it around, and subscribe for more breakdowns and updates on stories like this. Things online move fast, and honestly, this situation still feels far from over.